All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and we have to talk about the new M3. BMW just dropped this car, and I think it's really exciting. I'm super excited for it, but it seems like nobody else is, and there are a couple different reasons why. So the first thing about it is this car is the M3 CS Handschalter, and I have to say it like that because it is, of course, German, but the Handschalter edition is something unique to cars that come with a manual transmission. And if you actually look up the definition of Handschalter, you'll see that it means manual shift or manual transmission. So BMW used this nomenclature previously on the Z4 M40i for the limited run that came with a manual transmission, and this car is no different. But you might be thinking, well, we already have an M3 with a manual transmission, but this is not just a regular M3, it is the CS, so it gets the full CS treatment. Almost. So it is an M3 CS with a manual transmission, but it isn't X-Drive like the regular M3 CS. This is rear-wheel drive only. So I know a lot of people were hoping this would finally be the manual X-Drive M3 that a lot of people have been hoping for, but unfortunately that isn't the case here. It's basically like a base M3 drivetrain with the 6-speed manual transmission and the rear-wheel drive only setup. But on top of that, there's one other thing that we have to highlight. The actual power plant. So it comes with the regular S58 engine, just like we've seen across the G80 lineup, but it only comes with 473 horsepower and 406 foot-pounds of torque. And that might sound pretty familiar, and that's because it is the exact same power that you get with the regular M3 base. And again, a lot of people were let down by this because you're hoping if you've got to deal with the manual transmission and you've got to deal with only being rear-wheel drive, at least it would come with the same 550 horsepower we see on the other M3 CS models. But unfortunately, that isn't the case. It's going to be basically the exact same M3 base setup, just with the CS treatment for, I guess, the entire rest of the car. Now, I still think this car is special. I mean, it is the first manual M3 CS, and it is the only other manual CS model besides the F87 M2 that is also really nice and also very sought after. So you'd think this would be a no-brainer for enthusiasts. A lot of people say they want manual transmission cars. They want that driver engagement and feel that comes with a rear-wheel drive platform. But I think in this case, it just ends up being a big letdown. But the good news is it does come with the rest of the CS treatment as well. So if you look at the rest of the car, for example, on the suspension, it comes with a lot of CS bits. So it has the CS sway bar to help reduce body roll. It also comes with CSL dampers, which is pretty unique. And then it comes with a unique spring setup. So there is a specific suspension setup for this M3 CS Handschalter to make sure that the car has the best handling possible. The cool thing is they also lowered the car an additional 6 millimeters, which is about a 1/4 inch or so, compared to the M3 CS X-Drive. Now they're saying that that is due to the car being rear-wheel drive only, and historically you can't lower an X-Drive car too much because it'll damage the front half shafts when those front axles get put at the wrong angle. So now that it is rear-wheel drive only, they feel comfortable lowering the car closer to the ground to give it a lower center of gravity and all the additional benefits that come with that. So again, it should be a little lower out of the factory, which hopefully makes it look a little bit better. I think that is a welcome change, unique to this specific car. Something else I had to look into is they highlighted that this car has unique auxiliary springs, and I wasn't sure if that meant this was gonna have some kind of coilover setup or like helper springs or something built into the suspension. But if you look into the parts database, you'll see that auxiliary spring is just another name for bump stops. So if you're wondering what they mean by the auxiliary springs in any of the press materials and videos that you saw, it's really just bump stops, which in reality, they do kind of act as a spring if your car bottoms out because of the material. It compresses and kind of gives a spring action, but I don't think that's something that anybody really cares about. That's not something that you should be experiencing in regular driving or track use. They also put a lot of effort to make sure that this car has optimal dynamic and handling characteristics. So that means it has unique suspension and engine tuning for this car. For example, they have a unique diff setup and unique settings for traction control and stuff like that. It still has the 10-stage adjustable traction control, but the actual way that it intervenes will be specific to this car. And then of course you can also option it with the M3 CS strut brace. So if you want that aluminum strut brace you see here, that's some checkbox that you can add. This car even has extra camber from the factory, which I think again is a nice touch because with X-Drive cars, you don't always want to run too much camber, potentially damaging your front axle. So now you're able to get that better turn in and steering feel that a lot of people would say a regular G80 would be, you know, kind of too numb. So hopefully that helps wake up the front end of the car to make it even more fun on a track. Now I know what you're wondering at this point. How can I stay tuned for more updates? And obviously the way to do that is to be sure to subscribe to this channel. I make a lot of videos giving you guys new updates about the latest BMW models, but we also do technical discussions about our cars, post DIYs on how to do repairs, as well as modifications and upgrades in case that's something you're interested in as well. So definitely subscribe for more videos in the future. I post weekly and will give you all of the information you need to enjoy your car as much as you can. But back to the M3 CS. So this car also is available with the forged wheels that come on the CS models. They look really cool. I do like the colorway with this kind of bronze gold finish, and they are forged, so that makes them lighter as well. And you can also option the car with ceramic brakes. So standard, it comes with the regular steel brakes. But if you option it for the carbon ceramic brakes, you can get those with the regular gold calipers, or you can get them with red calipers as well, which I think is a nice touch, especially for certain colors. I think the red looks a lot better than the yellow or gold, but it just kind of depends on your preference. And then you can pair those wheels and brakes with a couple different tire options depending on how you're going to be using the car. So it comes standard with the regular high performance summer tires, something like a Pilot Sport 4S, or you can option it with a track tire setup, which should be something like a Michelin Cup 2. And they also have an ultra track tire, as they call it, which will basically be like a Cup 2R. So something much more sticky, but much more dedicated to track use while sacrificing some things with, you know, maybe range performance and stuff on the street. Now, something I thought was interesting is on the inside of the car, they basically said there are no options. And what that means is what you see is what you get. They said that multiple times in the videos I watched. So basically it comes with one standard interior setup. Of course, that includes the M bucket seats. So you're going to get the nice seats that everybody's looking for. And then in the center console, it gets the full CS treatment. So no cup holders, because obviously you won't need to drink anything when you're racing your friends to your place of work. And it also removes the actual center console, the big armrest that you typically get in a G80. It replaces it with this little leather wrapped nub that you can park your elbow on. So this is where a lot of people argue that the CS treatment goes too far. You obviously want some of these features if it's going to be a daily driven vehicle, but if you're opting for the CS, then maybe that's not as important to you. Then coming down the middle on the center tunnel, you can see it's completely covered in carbon fiber, and the steering wheel is covered in Alcantara. So again, a lot of the little CS touches that you're looking for come standard on this car with no other choice. So the black and red interior and everything that you see, again, is going to be exactly what you get. Of course, it wouldn't be a CS model without trying to make it lightweight. So yes, the center console is deleted for weight savings, but they do have some actual weight savings on the exterior of the car. They are running a carbon fiber hood, which drops a couple pounds, and they are also using a titanium exhaust, which drops a couple pounds as well. Now, all of the weight savings drops about 75 pounds in total, but about 40 pounds of that is with the interior and exterior mods, and then over 30 pounds is associated with the carbon ceramic brakes. So you'll kind of have to decide if you want the weight savings that come with carbon ceramics, or if you plan on really tracking your car, maybe you would opt for the steel brakes for something that is a little bit cheaper on consumables and handles a little bit longer with real track abuse. It'll really kind of be up to you to determine which one is best for your use. But with all of that, the car drops down to 3,765 pounds estimated, which is the lightest G80 and still heavier than the heaviest F80. But regardless of that, it is leaning in the right direction to what people want. The lightest possible chassis with the S58 engine and really good dynamic and handling characteristics. I am a little disappointed though, because despite all the weight savings, it still has the same 4.1 second 0 to 60 rating. So it seems like it's not actually that much faster in a straight line on paper, but hopefully that will translate to faster cornering speeds and better response when you're actually driving the car. But I don't want to lie to you guys. I mean, it is still very heavy. 3,700 to 3,800 pounds is big. And this car can be optioned with things like a powered trunk, a heads-up display, a lot of, electronic features, all of the parking sensors and stuff, of course, come standard, and all of the regular safety features that are required in 2027. So it's going to be a heavy car. Even though they removed things like the cup holders and your armrest, they want to make sure that you have these other features that come standard in every other G80. And then last but not least, let's talk about the exterior. So it comes standard in a couple different colors, black sapphire metallic, which would probably be my choice, obviously, or it can also come in Isle of Man green. And then they have two individual colors that you can get, Technoviolet as well as Amola red. So depending on what your preference is, you can go with those options. I'm surprised they didn't have white or blue like you see in the other CS models, but maybe just for this case, they thought it would make more sense to consolidate the options. It also comes with the usual red trim that you expect with the CS models. So it has the specific CS front grille with the red trimmed M3 CS badge and the really big openings. And then of course the red trimmed M3 CS badge on the trunk as well, and other various bits. It's just the usual M3 CS that you see from the outside. They also did highlight that yes, this car comes with the regular yellow DRLs you expect on a CS, but it is the only LCI G80 that has these yellow DRLs. So if you ever see these specific yellow DRLs, then it's a Handschalter edition. So with all of that in mind, who is this for? I mean, it has a slower transmission, a less grippy drivetrain, and it makes less power than every other CS, even less power than other competition models. So who would actually buy this? Me. I mean, there are definitely people like me out there that would enjoy a car like this. I bought my 440i in manual for a specific reason. I bought it in rear wheel drive for a specific reason. And I think there are a lot of people out there that would feel that same way. This is a limited production model, so they're not trying to sell it by volume. They are selling it for a specific set of enthusiasts that are looking for this specific setup. They want the manual transmission, they want the rear wheel drive driving dynamics, but they want the lightest possible setup. And then of course the horsepower doesn't make as much of a difference to them. I think BMW is still leaning on the same thing they've been saying for the past decade, that the manual transmission can't handle much more power. And to be fair, for most people that are tuning their S58s, as soon as you start tuning it and putting downpipes on the car, you're going to need an upgraded clutch to handle the extra torque. But I feel like there's something they could have done if they really wanted to commit to the full CS package. Of course, pairing it with an xDrive setup and making the transmission or the clutch stronger to be able to handle at least a little bit of additional torque. Even if it wasn't the full 550 horsepower, they could have treated it like the M2 CS and just make it match the M3 comp horsepower levels. But it is what it is. So that's why most people aren't excited about it. They at least wanted the extra horsepower if it's going to be paired with a manual transmission in rear wheel drive. But I think the people that are interested are going to get exactly what they're looking for. So if this is a car that you want, hopefully you live in the USA, because this is the only place it's going to be coming to. I think that's the first time in BMW history that they've limited a model to the US instead of limiting it to Europe. So sorry to all the guys in Germany, but I guess now you kind of see how we've been feeling for the past several years. But this is limited to US production, and it's going to be around $108,000 with all of the shipping and fees and stuff like that as the MSRP. Hopefully there isn't too crazy of a markup, but you can probably at least expect that initially. These will start going into production later this year around July, and they're hoping to see orders out in the wild around August. So again, later this year, you should be able to actually get one. I recommend talking to your dealer now if you want to be first on the list to make sure you get an order. They're saying a lot of dealers probably will only get one. So you might need to call around to see if you can find a dealer with an actual allocation if this is a car that you want. So yeah, I think this is a proper send-off for the G80 M3. Hopefully we see more of this kind of stuff in the future. People are already starting to anticipate maybe the M2 will get a manual CS model as well, which I think would be pretty cool. But who knows if it'll actually get the extra power and stuff that people are looking for. We're still anticipating the M2 xDrive coming out later this year and some other things. So I would just say, again, stay tuned to the BMW updates, and of course, stay tuned to the channel, and I'll let you guys know everything I see coming out later on. So go ahead and let me know what you guys think. Is this a car that you're interested in, or do you think BMW dropped the ball and just kind of did a parts bin setup to use up the rest of their inventory? As always, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But otherwise, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.